Hello, and welcome to the Love Your Work Life podcast. I'm your host, Elissa Shuck. Whether you're going for that next promotion, looking for a job, or making a career pivot, I'll teach you how to navigate it all so you can have the career you want. This is episode 61 and part 2 of Make Your Move. Now, last week we talked about observation, how just in the observation of what's going on, you're setting something new into motion. The idea of the observation principle, that something is happening immediately upon you paying attention. Now, today I want to talk to you about motivation. Because yes, you can notice things all the time, and we know the principle that in the noticing and the witnessing that things will change, but you want to then springboard from that into motivation so that what you've noticed is actually leading you to a better destination. So I've put together some thoughts on this that I want to share. First of all, any kind of meaningful change in your life or in your career is underpinned by motivation. You can have the best tactics in the world, the best strategies, all the creativity, anything you want, have it all lined up. But if you don't have motivation, then none of that really matters, because you'll never be taking full advantage of all those amazing plans that you've made, all those goals that you've set, if you're not motivated and motivated on a consistent basis. One way to tap into motivation is to make your move a must. Remember, I talked about inevitability last week. When you change from making your move something you're considering to something that must happen, it changes the dynamic of motivation. This is why should is poison, because it doesn't have enough oomph behind it, right? I should do something. I must do something. I should change my job. I must change this job. This is a nuance that I want you to pay attention to in what you're thinking and what you're using to motivate yourself. Tony Robbins talks about this idea of making things a must when he talks about leverage. At a basic level, our behavior is governed by avoiding pain or gaining pleasure. Think about it. I ate the cupcake because it was pleasurable. I'm thinking more about that than I'm thinking about whether or not I'm sticking to the habits that I want to have for myself when it comes to my eating. You have things that you do to avoid pain. Leverage is when you use both pain and pleasure, the avoidance of pain and the gain of pleasure, to create motivation for yourself. I'll give you a few pain, pleasure kinds of questions to ask yourself to help you create this leverage. First of all, the pain association questions. What will it cost me to not have that new job? What has it cost me in the past? What is it costing the people I care about? What is it costing me in opportunity, in where I want to go from here, in the kind of life I want to have? Ask yourself these pain associating questions to really remind yourself why this career move is a must. And then ask yourself some questions that associate it with pleasure. Then ask yourself some pleasure associating questions. If I had a new job now, what would my life look like? What will I gain after having landed this new job? What will it mean for me and the people I love? What will it give me? Will it give me freedom? Will it give me opportunity? Will it give me work from home? More time with my family? Look at the benefits of that change. What does it offer you? What is that exchange of value, right? What are you getting as a result of that change? These questions you can go back to over and over again. I'll put them in the show notes so that you have them. But ask yourself these pain associating questions and these pleasure associating questions so that you are creating leverage in order to stay motivated. Let's dive in a little bit to pain. Pain gets your attention, right? You had a bad day. You had a particularly awful commute. You ran into that person that just is a challenging relationship in your workplace. Maybe the culture or business that you're in just gnaws at your values at some level. And every once in a while, something crops up that just points that out, and now you have this pain. And it's gotten your attention. And you think, hey, I should get a new job. Again, should doesn't work, right? Because as soon as the pain is gone, the motivation is gone. It's like that good hair, bad hair day thing I was talking about last week. You have got to use more than just the pain of running away from something to the pleasure of running toward something. I have a whole podcast episode. I'll put it in the show, put the number in the show notes about running away from something or running toward something. This concept will change the way you approach your job search. But listen, if you don't tap into pleasure, then you will always be in this mode of thinking about doing it, doing a little bit, slipping back into your old patterns of thinking it's going to get better until it's not better anymore. We don't want you on this roller coaster ride or this seesaw of back and forth of doing it or not doing it. That's why when you also tap into pleasure, meaning what is your life going to be like when you have that new job, when you don't have to have that commute anymore, when you don't have to face that person or, avoid that person anymore. That's what you want to tap into. That's what you want to do. And one of the ways to help you think about what your life is going to be like is to just spend some time visualizing. Spend some time thinking about what it's going to be like and put a great deal of clarity around what you're imagining and all the details you can think of and even some emotion. You can transplant emotions from one experience to another. So if you think about something that you accomplished or a situation that was really emotionally charged with the best kinds of emotion, the feeling of empowerment, the feeling of freedom, the feeling of getting something that you worked really hard for, that satisfaction, whatever that situation was, you can harness that feeling and apply it to anything you want. We have the power to do that as human beings because those feelings are driven by thoughts. And you can take those thoughts wherever you want. You can apply those thoughts to whatever you want. When you are visualizing what you want with a lot of vividness and living from your future self, and by that I mean living as if you already have it, living as if it's impossible to fail landing that new role or getting that promotion, then you're tapping in to pleasure and creating that motivation leverage. So even use pain as a trigger. When you feel the sting, use that as your moment to reset and go back to the vision that you've created for yourself. It's a really, really awesome way to stay motivated. Another way to stay motivated is to check in with your feelings. And how do you know you need to check in with your feelings is if you're not taking the actions that you know you need to take in order to move closer towards your goal. In a job search, that might mean you are not reaching out to a recruiter, or you're not following up on an interview that you had, or you're not spending time even looking at job posts. What is it that your feelings are telling you? And I can't help but think of Star Wars in this moment when Obi-Wan Kenobi says to Luke, "Trust your feelings." Your feelings are actually telling you something about your thoughts and whether or not those thoughts are serving you in creating motivation. And I know this might sound like some deep woo-woo stuff, but it's actually not. We get to decide our thoughts anytime we want to. The typical thing is, though, that we let our thoughts run on autopilot. We let our thoughts run unintentionally instead of managing them and being very intentional with what we're thinking. And that's the habit I want you to get into. The cool thing is it doesn't have to be really deep. I'll share one of mine. The thought that works for me almost every single time. It's a go-to thought to help me get motivated to do the thing I want to do the thing that needs to be done is, wait for it now because it's really deep. This is going to be fun. Now, there was a time I kind of judged myself for having that thought. Like, wow, shouldn't I have some other thought that seems a little more sophisticated to get myself motivated to taking action? I don't need it. Because honestly, if I think something's going to be fun, then I know I'm going to take action. So I don't need to beat myself up for having that thought. If I know it works, why wouldn't I just think about the circumstance, think about the situation and the action I want to take in that circumstance and go to the thought that works for me. This is going to be fun. You have those thoughts too. Think about the times that doing what you wanted to do, taking action seemed effortless. You had all the motivation in the world. What were your thoughts in that moment? Were you thinking like me, this is going to be fun? Or were you thinking of how amazing it was going to be on the other side of that project, goal, chore, whatever it might be? Use all of this to your advantage. I want you to spend some time with these pain associating questions, with these pleasure associating questions, and getting into the thoughts that will create a feeling of motivation for you. Next week, we will talk about the how to make it happen. so that you have the tactics, the strategies, the proven process that I've coached over and over again, so that you can go to your how to make it happen, as well as circle back into observation and motivation to keep going, to create some traction and momentum in your career. All right, we will talk again next week. If you like listening to this podcast, and you are going to love my program, Job Search Field Guide. This is a unique opportunity. I offer group coaching alongside a 5-step process to help you land a job quickly. So I hope you will join me in Job Search Field Guide. This is going to be revolutionary to your career journey and your job search, and you get lifetime access. So find it at elissashuck-careercoach.com, and I will see you there.